Welcome back, Cogitantes. Who would have thought that in 2024 a sci-fi AAA game with hot ladies from South Korea would be based on the Bible? In a time when religion isn't exactly a hot topic among younger generations, seeing biblical themes in Stellar Blade is pretty unexpected and intriguing. So how does the Bible fit into Stellar Blade? Well, there are two levels of biblical subtext. The first is the obvious stuff, like names and references, the surface level, or what you'd call the exoteric level. The second is more hidden, involving deeper biblical motives, the esoteric level. I've been thinking about these things recently, and they've helped me to understand one of the most ambiguous characters in the game, at least for me. Then more thoughts came in, and this video ended up being longer than usual. I'm talking about Lily. Who's Lily? Depending on who you ask, she's either an adorable, naive girl or a pedantic, irritating child. Who's Lily and what's her connection to the Bible? Sit back, relax, grab a glass of spritz and let's find out. Lily, Artemis II, is the engineering support of the 5th Drop Unit. Among the paratroopers, she is the only character with a short stature and short hair, and her voice was recorded to resemble a child's. Is she a child? No, because according to the information in the databank, she is clearly an adult. Lily's journey begins with a simple mission that goes awry. Due to coordinate error, she finds herself stranded in an unfamiliar and hostile area, waiting for rescue. Eve rips open the pod that traps Lily, and Lily introduces herself to Eve. Who's Eve? If you don't know her, be sure to watch my character analysis video on this channel. Realizing Lily's potential for engineering support, Eve quickly joins forces with her. However, there is a problem. Lily has no equipment. Adam, another survivor they encounter, persuades Lily that Zion, a nearby city, has all the tools and resources they need. With a new destination in mind, Lily, Eve, and Adam set off together towards Zion. Upon arriving in Zion, Lily is initially taken aback by Orcal, the city's leader. His intimidating appearance makes her hesitant, but she soon realizes that he is a trustworthy and safe individual. In Zion, Lily is mesmerized by the brightly lit hyperdrive and questions if it is a tomb. Adam clarifies that the residents are not dead, but in a state of suspended animation due to a lack of energy. Then their journey takes a perilous turn when Adam has to return to Zion urgently due to an emergency. Lily takes charge of the drone, accompanying Eve as she descends into the atmosphere, defenseless and at risk of death. With no other options, Lily sends a desperate rescue signal to Mother Sphere and the colony, hoping for a miracle. Her prayers are answered when Providence, a rescue unit from the colony, appears and saves Eve, bringing her safely to Earth. Overwhelmed with relief, Lily hugs Eve, grateful for her survival. Later, Lily boards Providence and they face Raven. Who's Raven? Be sure to watch my character analysis video on her. After defeating Raven, Eve discovers the true identity of the Elder Naitiba, which leaves her feeling betrayed and enraged. Depending on the player's choice to fight or merge with the Elder Naitiba, the story could lead to a tragic end for Lily or to a triumphant return to Zion where she awakens the sleeping citizens. And that's her story in short. Now let's talk about her character arc. But before, if you haven't done it already, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check out all my videos on Stellar Blade. So Lily's character remains steadfast and reliable. Unlike Eve and Raven, who undergo significant changes, Lily stays true to herself. She is a skilled engineer and a dependable companion, unwavering in her belief in the Mother Sphere despite the challenges she faces. Her consistency and dedication make her a pillar of strength for those around her, demonstrating the power of steadfastness and loyalty in the face of adversity. Where does Lily's name come from? Her name provides a glimmer of insight into her role in the story. In a game where many characters are inspired by biblical names, Lily stands out with a nod to Lilith, a figure who is notoriously elusive, appearing in countless forms across popular culture. Lilith is sometimes a vampire, a she-devil, a succubus, or even the mother of demons. She's a character found in various video games, always carrying that dark, mysterious edge. Lily in Stellar Blade seems worlds apart from these sinister depictions. She exudes a chipper, happy-go-lucky attitude, wearing her heart on her sleeve. Ever the optimist, she keeps the atmosphere light, lifting the spirits of other characters with her jokes and unwavering support. This is why at first glance it appears that her name's connection to Lilith might be coincidental or a superficial nod to the Bible. However, there is more to Lilith's character. Beyond her usual appearance as a strong supporter of Eve with a cute, endearing side, she harbors a dual persona. On one hand, she is the cheerful, heartwarming presence, but on the other, she becomes a fanatical believer in the Mother Sphere, who in turn sees Lily as nothing more than a disposable tool. Mother Sphere's indifference to Lily's fate underscores the latter's blind devotion. Why does Lily follow Mother Sphere so blindly? After the Great War, Mother Sphere imposed strict brainwashing on her creations, the androidos, feeding them lies and deifying herself. This indoctrination turned Eve, Raven, Taki, and all the androidos into fanatics, worshipping Mother Sphere as their absolute god. While Raven and Eve eventually uncover the truth and begin to think rationally, Lily reacts differently. Her behavior becomes highly emotional, vehemently denying the reality she herself has witnessed. This refusal to accept the truth reveals that Lily is not a devoted believer, but rather a simple fanatic clinging to her beliefs despite the evidence before her eyes. Lily's unwavering belief in Mother Sphere is not due to a particular strong faith, but rather because Mother Sphere is such an absolute entity that most androidos from the colony cannot even fathom doubting her. Even Eve, who eventually becomes more rational, takes time to be convinced. She initially feels confused and cautious, thinking it's too early to draw any conclusions. Raven once had such strong faith that she would say, "May Mother Sphere's blessing be with you," in the first legacy, eventually has her faith shattered, leading to a complete mental breakdown. So religious fanaticism is not unique to Lily. It is a widespread issue among the androidos. Another critical aspect of Lily's character arc is her relationship with Adam, which is rife with conflict, and with the Mother Sphere, which is of blind devotion. To understand this dynamic, we need to delve into the context provided by the book of Genesis. This will be brief, don't worry. There are two accounts of human creation in the Genesis. The first account states that God created man and woman together on the last day, implying they were made simultaneously and were equals. The second account describes how God first created Adam from the earth and then made Eve from Adam's rib, suggesting a hierarchy or subordinate relationship. This discrepancy has led some to speculate about the existence of another woman before Eve, which is where Lilith comes into picture. According to some stories, Lilith was Adam's first companion, but their relationship was tumultuous. They argued, had conflicts, and eventually Lilith left or was cast out of Eden. Now, in certain versions of these tales, Lilith is even likened to the serpent in Eden, the one who tempted Eve. Why is Lilith often depicted as evil? It ties back to ancient stories where she defied Adam and by extension the divine order established by God. Her rebellion and subsequent departure from Eden cast her as a symbol of disobedience and defiance, leading to her portrayal in a darker, more sinister light. Regarding the famous biblical serpent that tempted Eve, many traditions specify that this serpent is actually Lilith. She is often depicted not just as a serpent, but as a hybrid creature, half woman with the bust of a woman and the tail of a snake. This image is reminiscent of the mythical Lamia from ancient folklore. Over time, interpretations of Genesis have been vast and varied. The idea of Lilith being the serpent grew out of these many layers of commentary and imagination. Interestingly, the original text of Genesis doesn't specifically mention an apple as the forbidden fruit. That detail was later added and popularized in art and literature. Over the centuries, interpretations and commentaries on the forbidden fruit in the Genesis story have varied widely. It has been imagined as different fruits, including wheat, dates, figs, and grapes. Some scholars even suggest that the forbidden fruit could have been something intoxicating, like the fruit of the vine used to make wine. Okay, let's come back to Stellar Blade. There is an interesting dynamic between Adam and Eve. If we incorporate the figure of the biblical Lilith into the discussion, her role in Stellar Blade can be seen as reflected by Raven. Raven initially feels chosen by Adam but is eventually cast aside. Instead, it is Eve who Adam proposes to join at the game's conclusion, symbolizing the creation of a new humanity. Adam explains, even if all the Naitibas disappear, it's impossible for your kind to succeed the human race. After all, you were created entirely from scratch with no human DNA at all. He contrasts this with his own kind, who, despite becoming monstrous and losing their reason, still possess human DNA. The proposed union of Adam and Eve is thus portrayed as essential for the birth of the new humanity. This narrative also touches on the myth of the androgen, which is connected to both the Genesis story and Greek mythology. We can't go much into detail here because there is a lot to say, and I plan to make another video on this topic, but it's sufficient to say here that according to this myth, the original human being had 4 arms, 4 legs, and 2 faces. The gods, fearing their power, split them in half, leaving humans forever yearning for their other half. In Stellar Blade, the merging of Adam and Eve symbolizes the reunion of these divided parts to create a new, complete entity embodying the myth of the androgen. If the player chooses to accept Adam's proposal, this union represents the birth of the new humanity. So Raven parallels Lilith as Adam's first companion and eventually leaves or is cast aside. In contrast, Lily represents the serpent in tempting Eve. Unlike the serpent of Eden who sought to impart knowledge, Lily's temptation is to keep Eve in ignorance and loyal to their deity, Mother Sphere, the antagonist in Stellar Blade, the goddess worshipped by Eve, Lily, and the other androidos. Lily's actions urging Eve to reject Adam's proposal symbolize a reverse temptation compared to the story of the biblical snake. It is still a temptation, but instead of offering knowledge, Lily advocates for remaining faithful to Mother Sphere, thus maintaining ignorance. Lily's accusation of blasphemy can be likened to the serpent's words in the Genesis, Eritis sicut Dii, or you will be like divinity. These insidious words were used by the serpent to persuade Adam and Eve to violate God's sacred law. The serpent's deception and temptation represent humanity's great temptation to transcend limits and replace the divine, destroying every possible boundary in the process. In contrast, Lily's temptation is the opposite. While the Serpent of Eden tries to distance Adam and Eve from God through knowledge, Lily tempts Eve to reject Adam's proposal and remain faithful to their deity, Mother Sphere, maintaining ignorance. Throughout the game, Lily consistently dismisses revelations about their past, such as the truth that androids are not truly human and that Mother Sphere has manipulated them. She labels these truths as blasphemy and fake information. Lily's role as the snake is to perpetuate this ignorance, encouraging Eve to stay loyal to Mother Sphere and reject the knowledge that could liberate them. This is why, in the game's final moments, when confronted with various truths about their existence and Mother Sphere's deceptions, Lily urges Eve to reject Adam's proposal, insisting that these revelations are false. Thus, Lily's temptation is to maintain the status quo, keeping Eve and the other androids in blind faith, contrasting sharply with the Serpent of Eden, whose temptation was about gaining forbidden knowledge and challenging divine authority. This prompts a question: is Lily actually working for Mother Sphere? Her story contains several discrepancies that suggest this possibility. For example, she claims to have been trapped in her pod for 2 years, yet mentions that her friend, Iberis, fell into a coma just 1 year before. Moreover, what was Lily doing in the basement? Could it be that Mother Sphere caused Iberis' coma and coerced Lily into getting close to Eve in return for reviving Iberis? The character bio at the end hints that Mother Sphere had orchestrated everything from the beginning. I might have an explanation for Lily's inconsistencies. After you defeat Gigas and the scene shifts inside the tetrapod, Adam refers to her surviving in that hideout for 2 years, not a drop pod, but a hideout. It's likely that during an unheard dialogue, Lily reveals she was hiding out in Eidos 9. She then returned to her pod to Eidos 7 to activate the rescue beacon. After noticing another operation starting, she hid in her pod because an Alpha Natiba was nearby, being unable to fight since she is in engineering support, not combat. The dynamic between technology and humanity is perfectly illustrated in the concept of transhumanism, where humans are used by technology to further its own objectives. Humans exist in a median reality caught between the earthly and the celestial, the spiritual and non-spiritual, between angels and material things. In Stellar Blade, the human player guides Eve into facing a critical decision that embodies this tension. You must choose between Lily, who represents loyalty to Mother Sphere, and the status quo of technological subservience, and Adam, who symbolizes a return to humanity. Lily's temptation is to keep Eve in ignorance, maintaining faith in Mother Sphere, and rejecting the knowledge Adam offers. This mirrors the broader societal struggle where technology promises power and control, but often leads to greater dependence and manipulation. This understanding is foundational and mirrors the Christian variation of the Greek concept of the limit, the metron ariston, or the best measure to adhere to. For the Greeks, it was the physis, the natural order. For Christians, it is the law of God who creates humans. For modern individuals who no longer believe in nature or God, the only remaining guiding force is technology, which acknowledges no limits. The only boundary known to the civilization of technology is feasibility. Each time a limit is surpassed, what was previously unattainable becomes possible. Thus, contemporary techno-scientific progress is defined by the constant overcoming of limits, making this process the ultimate goal. In the game, it is producing each time a more advanced generation of android Eidos. The nihilistic teleological orientation of technological civilization lies in this relentless pursuit of overcoming boundaries, presenting it as the end itself. This mirrors the insidious promise of the Serpent, Lilith. In Stellar Blade, this theme is brought to life through Eve's choice. If she chooses to follow Lily and remain faithful to Mother Sphere, she embodies the ultimate submission to technological dominance, ignoring the truths and potential for liberation that Adam represents. Conversely, by accepting Adam's proposal, Eve symbolically embraces the opportunity for a new beginning, one that respects the human essence and seeks to restore balance, echoing the ancient wisdom of limits and the natural order. What would you choose? So what do you think about Lily? What do you think about the biblical subtext in the game? There's much more to say about this game and the Bible, which I plan to explore on this channel, like for example Abaddon, meaning destruction, or the city of Zion, referring to Jerusalem as a symbol of hope. The angels for the airborne squad. Here I've tried to go beyond the simple uses of terms and look for biblical motives. Please share your thoughts and leave a comment below. Thank you for your time. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. It's free and it helps the channel to grow, enabling me to bring you better analysis, more engaging content, and enlarging the community of cogitantes. I wish you a happy mindful gaming, and I will see you next time.